Welcome to the Retention Edge, where we sit down with the people shaping great customer experiences in e-commerce and retail. Today, we're talking to Jeff Mergy from Bold Metrics. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. Excited to be here and to chat all things fit and sizing and personalization with you.
Of course, very excited for this. Just to kick things off, it would be great to get a bit of a background into you, your experience, and what you're currently doing at Bold Metrics.
Yeah, so let's see. I am an apparel industry vet, so spent about 10 years in the actual physical apparel space. And I joined Bold Metrics about 6 years ago and made the jump over from physical to the digital world. And I joined, we were just four, small team. The company had been around, really focused on custom clothers and tailors. And I joined as kind of the head of product to strategize around, how we bring this technology to ready to wear. Have worn many hats, continue to wear many hats at Bold Metrics. But yeah, it's been 6 years and we've, come out with numerous products in that time. And right now, my main focus is in growth and partnerships and product strategy, and really enjoying working with leaders in the apparel space. Still staying really involved in that industry, but kind of coming at it from a digital side of things, and really aimed at solving some major problems with online shopping and fit and sizing, which I know everyone listening has probably struggled with. So excited to kind of dig in more, but that's a little bit about my background and kind of
Hmm.
what I'm doing today.
Oh, that's awesome. And I guess if you were to give us a quick, call it 1 minute pitch on what Bold Metrics is doing,
Yeah.
what would you say?
Yeah. So Bold Metrics is an AI powered body data platform, and that's really how we're positioning our company as we expand. We definitely solve fit and sizing challenges at the consumer level and kind of live in a tool where we help shoppers understand how something is going to fit on their specific body so they can take into account their fit preference and really kind of know what size to buy. But as we grow, it's this data has value across the organization, not just to the e-commerce team. And I think that's one thing that's really resonating with our approach to this. And I think obviously growing and in the e-commerce world, but when other parts of organizations, whether it be sustainability, with understanding the environmental impacts on reducing returns, or personalization and marketing teams being able to use this data to better service their customers, to actual product designers understanding the bodies of their shoppers and how to design better products for their shoppers. So exciting time in our world at Bold Metrics as we kind of expand to really bring value to the entire organization, not just
Mhm.
the e-commerce team. So might have been more than a minute, but there you go.
No, that's perfect, and I mean, I think it kind of plays really nicely into today's topic, which is where do we kind of go from here, right? I think we're entering a time where a couple of core pieces of the shopping experience are changing, especially with tools like AI becoming a bit more prevalent and their utility grows.
Mhm.
So, really today I'm excited to talk about the future of fit and how that kind of fits into CX, retention, and overall brand loyalty as a whole.
Cool.
So, I think to get started, what would be very interesting to really discuss is, the future of AI in customer experience and personalization. So, sizing in many ways, there's tons of tools on the market, and Bold obviously has a unique way of approaching this problem. But with AI, the question really is like, what's next? When it comes to shopping experiences, do you kind of see brands building hyper personalized shopping experiences based on, past purchases, body scanning, as well as call them real time recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think most brands have not even adapted solutions like this. Like, it's it's funny, like you think that this is like such a mainstream tech, but it's really an untapped market. Sure, there's companies that have tried things, and there's definitely been solutions out in the market for a while. But when you look at like the overall industry and how much opportunity there is, where there's so many companies that have never had an easy way for customers to find their size, or have just always relied on, those size charts that no one uses, right?
Mhm.
So I think I do see us moving into a period where what we do at Bold Metrics, and really what anybody does in our space, is going to become, more of a need to have for brands versus like, oh, this is a nice thing to have. Especially as, returns become more and more of an issue. They cost more and more every year to apparel brands. Customers can take advantage of, free returns. And unfortunately, we've been trained that that's okay, when really, returns aren't free if you're a brand, or even for the environment, they're not free, right? So I do think, what I'm hearing, from some of our customers and prospects, is there's definitely changes coming into return policies. And I think, if you want to maximize conversion, for the people that get to your site or your app, and you don't have an easy way to find a size, and you're going to charge them money if it doesn't fit, like, you're going to lose out. So I do think we're definitely seeing a lot of momentum as far as like companies that have never had a solution in fit and sizing, like wanting to explore what that means and how can they attack that, to companies that have tried other approaches in the past, and want to, maybe it didn't work out, and want to see what else is out there, what's newer in the space. Like, definitely some interest there as well. As far as body scanning goes, you brought that up. I still don't see that coming up a lot. Like, we are the only like scaled solution in the industry that can create an AI body model
Yep.
of a customer using our virtual tailor technology that's been in market for 10 years. And so that basically allows a brand to like scan their customer's body without them having to put on tight fitting clothes and, um, take photos or videos of themselves, which we know that it doesn't get adapted. And a lot of
Because
people just don't feel comfortable. So I do think, like, I don't see that coming up very much. However, like, I see the ability to have that shape of a customer via our approach resonating. Does that make sense?
no, that makes sense, and I think something you said kind of resonates quite a bit with us too, right? Where with our solution, for example, we still see that brands view it as a nice to have
Uh-huh.
rather than a core part of their overall brand and loyalty and retention strategy.
Right.
And I'm curious with what you're seeing with customers right now. There's obviously the impact on returns, right? And I
Uh-huh.
think there's long tail retention benefits of optimizing for fit. Is there anything, I guess, your customers have shared with you or that you've seen um, when it comes to customer loyalty, building that kind of repeat potential with a customer with a solution like Bold?
Yeah, I think, what we see from all of our customers, like, once they're live and they're seeing the results, is, they want as many of their shoppers to use us as possible. So how can you drive more adoption? Because that is going to create more retention, right? If people are feeling more confident and want to buy and getting the right size, that definitely like gets people coming back. So ways to like serve our platform up in product finding experiences. We have a great innovative partner in Mizzen and Maine that's built a shirt finder using our tool to get to the sizing aspect of that. We've talked to some of our other customers about, things like jacket finders, and just ways to like bring our technology into other experiences. Like, we call it go beyond, the find my size button, right?
Mhm.
So there's, when you're just that button, not a huge percentage of your shoppers are clicking that. But if you
Yeah.
bring it into loyalty and fit profiles and other aspects of the customer journey, mobile apps, right? Like you can really drive adoption. And I think that's going to obviously create more retention.
Yep. And I suppose when you talk to brands about bold as a solution, but let's say there are general problems and what they're trying to solve for, do you find that the argument or the conversation you're having is still largely around acquisition and growth, or is this more of a keep our customers around for the long term kind of play?
I think both are important. I mean, the retention is more important than ever, just with how
Mhm.
expensive it is to, get someone even to your website, right? And that cost hasn't gone down, right? And it's not going down. So I think retention is important. I definitely feel like, you know, even with smaller companies that maybe for what we do is a big investment for them, they're seeing the value because they know one of the pain points when a shopper comes to the site for a first time, of your fast growing D2C brand, and you don't have an easy way for them to figure out what size to buy, like the chances of them leaving your site and going to maybe one of their tried and true brands is high,
Mhm.
right? So we do see a big percentage of sales in fast growing brands come through using our services, and it's because they're net new customers. They don't know what size they are, or it's a fast growing brand that comes out with a whole new category that they never had before. Like we had a
Mhm.
women's outerwear brand we work with that only used to sell ski wear, and now they're into athleisure, right? And the adoption and the amount of kind of revenue coming through the tool as a percentage of like total sales is massive because of that.
No, absolutely. And I think there's, especially for established brands, I think historically, because their merchandising and how they, maybe even their product development cycles are quite complex, um, finding that true fit, I suppose, for all types of customers has been
Right.
quite tough. And I think you see that in the rise of, call them niche inclusive brands like, Kitten Ace. I believe there's like Kieran Finch, where, it's a certain type of fit. Like Kitten Ace is, the whole value prop is for, I think it's like 5'6" and under, right? Something like that.
I did
Um,
not know that. I
yeah.
love that brand, but I didn't know that. I'm 6'3", so
And maybe I'm thinking of the wrong brand. I'll fix it in
we
post.
work with a brand whose like target customer is like 6'3" and over or something like,
Sorry, not
yeah.
Kid and Ace, Ash and Erie. I knew it was like
Okay.
an
Okay.
and.
I
um,
need to talk to them. We work with a
yeah,
brand called American Tall, and they're up by you in Canada, and they're
yeah,
focused on, I think, people over 6'3" for the most part.
that's funny. Yeah, because even one of my colleague Eric, he was just mentioning how he he's not a big app person, right? Which is funny
Right.
considering what we sell. But he has the Abercrombie and Fitch app because it's
Mm-hmm.
the only place he can go, and he knows for a fact if he buys something, it'll fit him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, kind of to your point, there's so many customer segments that maybe other brands are losing out on because they
Yeah.
don't have the data to actually personalize that experience and be like, hey, actually, we might not have the vast selection that fits you, but here's, say, 20% of our catalog that
Right.
actually works for you, right? Anything here interesting?
Yeah. I think that's a huge opportunity. I
No.
mean, if you can have your customers' body measurements slash body shape, and what size they are across your catalog, like there's a ton you can do to personalize that experience towards that person,
Yeah.
whether it be just filtering down the super long and ever scrolling product listing pages to like what's in stock in someone's size, to actually like service. If you're, let's say you're a dress brand and your design teams know, like, if your body shape is XYZ, like these silhouettes are going to be great for you, but these are not, right? So it's almost like they kind of know if a body shape buys this, no matter what size it is, it's coming back as a return. So why show it to,
Mhm.
why show it to the customer with that body shape, So I think like we're early days in using our data for that, but definitely brands are exploring how they can do that based on the learnings from kind of going through using our platform starting out.
Yeah. And I believe you kind of mentioned some interesting ways that brands could perhaps incentivize or even just strategically um, use body data as part of, call it, customer onboarding, right? It's when a new customer comes in, how do you get them to opt in and see the value of
Right.
a service like this, right? Currently, do you find there's still some resistance to that, or are you pretty easily able to get customers on board? Obviously, the brands are on board, but how are you finding it on the customer side?
Yeah, I think we don't have a large percentage of our customers that have created kind of like the fit profile, as part of a rewards program, but the ones that have seen adoption. I think like conversations around incentivizing those people with fit profiles with points in a rewards program, or even like reduced fees for returns if you have a fit profile. We have some clients collecting the data in stores too. That's another touch point with a customer, another place you can create an account. So I do think that because we're just asking people things like your age, your height, your weight, your pant waist, if you're a guy, if you're a woman, bra band and cup, like it's things off the top of your head. It's not anything that is hard to answer. And we know we have a super high adoption like when we're on a PDP. So as like another space in the site to collect that data, like it's not like a huge hurdle to do it. I think there could be a day where certain brands like make that mandatory, right? um, because they're really focused and passionate around like getting someone the right products for their body, understanding
Mhm.
that shopper, how they like to dress. um, so there definitely, I think, will be marketplaces and brands in the future where having this type of data is kind of like part of the having an account with the brand, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's definitely interesting, kind of that omni-channel experience and how this data can be used, whether that's in store or online as it currently is. Um, you kind of, earlier when we'd had like an intro call, you mentioned some interesting thoughts around how brands could use Bold and build it into, say, in-store experiences, right?
Yeah.
Wondering if any of your customers are currently doing that, or if you just have some ideas off the top for what that could be for brands.
Yeah, I mean, we've had customers and have customers use us in store for, collecting body measurements, getting them set up with the right fits when it comes to like suits and stuff like that, versus like having someone measure them
Mhm.
in person. I think clienteling, when you think about the luxury market and understanding someone that's coming in for a store appointment, they've pre-booked an appointment, you're getting prepped for that visit. If you understand that person's body, I think clienteling, is definitely a space that we're seeing some interest in as far as like prepping for in-store sessions. Like you go into a denim brand store and there's 10 fits of jeans, like it can be kind of daunting to understand like what fit is best for you as you're shopping in the store. So, our API could be used to power in-store experiences around like based on your body shape. Like these are the fits you should try on in the fitting room type
Yep.
of thing, right? And I think, there's a lot of brands that pride themselves on fit and they have stores and like they train their customer, they're, the people in the stores like can size someone up as they walk in the door. And I think like there's a huge opportunity to kind of bring that to the e-commerce world, right?
Yep.
When, how, if I go into a store and someone knows just by looking at me, like, hey, Jeff, you're an athletic fit, you have broader shoulders, like, here's some styles that we think are going to work on you. but that doesn't really happen online today,
Yeah.
even though it can happen on if you go shop those stores today, right? So I think bridging the gap between some of the cool experiences that are in store and bringing that online is, definitely an opportunity. And maybe you collect the data in store, but then that person can go online and feel just as confident shopping online as they did in store, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with like first party data and learning about your customers from them,
Right.
it is also a little bit of a change in direction. Personalization obviously being a hot topic has been for a while, and we got to chat about it a bit at our retail summits conference.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, very interesting to see how brands might be able to use this. You know, one thing that is interesting to me around fit, you mentioned returns, obviously, and there's a ton of focus right now on like sustainability and what that means, both, call it from a brand ethos level.
Mhm.
And as more customers care about, the sourcing and even their impact, their personal impact, do you see tools like Bold playing a role in building that up for a brand?
Yeah, I mean, we have some customers that are B Corp certified. Like, I think, I guess stepping back, like sustainability is like one of our core values at Bold Metrics. I think everyone at our company is like very passionate about that aspect of what we do and the impact that, our platform can make in reducing returns and CO2 impact when that returns have, but also like how that data can tie into making better decisions, not only potentially in inventory and forecasting when you have scalable consumer body data, but also like designing product that is better designed for your actual customer base versus
Mhm.
like who you think your customer is as a brand. So I think those are the ways like we can tie into sustainability. As far as communicating that to customers, I think there's a long way to go to re-educate customers around the impact returns have. I think I brought it up earlier. We
Mhm.
just kind of been trained that returns are okay, and you just put a couple extra things in the cart just because you can, and
Yes.
in your head there's a 90% chance that you're sending it back when you do that. So I mean, how can you calculate there's ways to calculate the impact of guaranteeing a return, right? But how can you communicate that to the shopper, and what does that do to conversion? There's a lot of things to try, but I do think it's going to be a slow and painful re-education process to consumers of like what returns actually mean, for the environment as well as like financially, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Uh, we had a rough conversation around mobile, and I'd imagine a lot of your customers, for example, are quite large, many of whom might or might not have a mobile app.
Uh-huh.
Um, do you currently see brands thinking about, considering the vast majority of transactions and just customer engagement now happening on mobile? Do you think mobile as an interface does open up some opportunities, I guess, to optimize for fit that desktop alone doesn't quite work as well for?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have an API, so that's how brands can use us in an app if they want to design something unique. Obviously, if we're already on the website and they work with you guys, the same experience would show up in the app. Uh, I think like the app has a unique onboarding experience, so it is an opportunity to collect that fit profile and get
Mhm.
that information, have that in your customer database. It creates that touch point. I've talked to a couple prospects of late, and they're starting to think about like unique experiences for unique products or products that are massive focuses for the brand. And when they launch those products, like what experiences can they bring around those products that they're going to put a lot of marketing and a lot of PR into? and like fit and sizing comes up for that, right? And I think like in an app experience, there's probably some interesting things that could be done when you want to focus on a few unique experiences within that app around a collection of products, let's say, that could be served a different way in an app than it is, in a typical desktop
Yeah,
experience.
no, absolutely. Um, I guess looking forward, right? We kind of talk a lot about AI for fit. Uh, I'm curious if you have any thoughts on uh, this new wave of shoppers. I'd imagine partly due to re-education, reprioritization, they're going to expect a completely different CX, right? I believe Marie on our panel had mentioned something around how the e-commerce experience has not really changed drastically in the past, say,
Yeah.
20 years, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious if you kind of see, AI having an impact on how people shop, say, in the next 5 to 10 years. Obviously, hard to predict, but curious where your head's at.
I hope so. Um, I think,
You're bored.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I agree with Marie. And she, it's, the first e-commerce store was like books, from
Yep.
Amazon, and you used to just scroll and add the cart, and
Yep.
the websites look a lot nicer now. There is some stuff like a lot easier to search. There's some new innovations in search and stuff like that there. And I do think AI is gonna drive more personalization in the next few years for sure. Um, I think there's a lot going on with AI models and how brands can make use of that technology and be able to create models of all different shapes and sizes to help shoppers understand how certain things look on different bodies, right?
Mhm.
And that's all being done like in AI like quickly. It's not photograph sessions and stuff like that. So there's some cool things going on in that space that I think is valuable to customers, to understand like how things are going to look when it's not just on that typical fit model, right?
Yep.
Um,
And do you kind of think that we're moving towards a world where folks just expect brands to know, not necessarily everything about them, but provide them with a bit more of this personalized onboarding to a brand because we do have an easier way of doing it now.
I don't know. I maybe the younger generation might really expect that. I get weirded out by it. Like
Right.
typical, like I was like using a chat bot on a website, and the website sells men and women's product, but somehow they knew like I was a
Sure.
male.
Oh, interesting.
And I still have no idea how they know that, but it's like kind of weird that way, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
So sure, it was convenient because I didn't have to like tell them, but like how hard is it to tell
To
them?
ask me.
uh
That's true.
but like I don't know, like for me personally, like there's like a line that I want to draw of like how well a brand knows me, unless like I provide that brand information because I want to,
Yep.
versus like just showing up to the site and it's like, oh, this is Jeff and he's a size Marge and we're
Yeah.
going to show him some slim fit t-shirts and some, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. It's a bit eerie,
but
right? Yeah.
if I like expect the brand to know that because I've shopped there, I've given them some information about myself,
Yeah.
then it seems like a no-brainer that I should show up to the site and see something different than you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the up to then first party data movement hopefully sticks around because
Yeah.
I'm very much the same way. I'm not a big fan of endless data.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So I guess just as a final quick question, as part of the series, we're really exploring ways that brands can start thinking about customer experiences at large, but also things that they're not doing that could help them on the
Oh.
retention front. We kind of talked once again quite a bit about AI, but outside of this focus on acquisition, Is there anything you currently see with the brands you work with, or from your personal experience, that you think brands should do to improve retention and focus on retention, I guess, as this core growth lever that we really know it can be, right, when you kind of crack it?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely what we do at Bold Metrics plays into this in a big way. And I think one thing we haven't really dove into is the fit preference side of things. So there's many solutions out there that brands may have tried or thinking about where it's simply just going to say, hey, Jeff, you're a medium. And,
Right.
you know, that doesn't work for at least half the population because the challenge with ready to wear is like it's designed for the masses, right? So it's not designed as a size Jeff, it's designed as a size medium, and Jeff's gonna have it be a little tight in his chest because I'm really a Marge, right? So I think the fit preference side helps with retention because it gains trust with the shopper, and the shopper's like, okay, yeah, they're saying the best size is a medium, but like it's a little tight in my chest. So if I'm not going to wear that specific item that way, I can size up. I'll tell you, like, you will never reduce returns if you don't take into account fit preference of the shopper, and
Yeah.
returns lead to non-retention, right? So I think that is a key piece for sure. I also think like communication and like fine tuning that communication towards customers. When I went to your site and I didn't buy,
Mhm.
don't tell me like the same thing every time I come to your site and I didn't buy. Like, tell me something else that you think is going to resonate based on what you've learned about me coming to your
Yeah.
site. And I think that is very untapped. Like, I just get these emails all the time, like, saw you checking this out. And it's like, so what? Like, are you going to,
So,
like, like that's not going to get me back
no.
to buy. So I think, like gaining more trust with the shoppers that like buy from your brand by explaining or serving them up different
Mhm.
communication, I guess, I think can help with retention for sure.
Absolutely. Um, we there's definitely a ton of options out there now too, right? Where you can build custom experiences for folks based on the data you have for them.
Mhm.
So why not load it if you can identify them, right?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
absolutely. Um, well, I mean, thank you so much, Jeff. This was a wonderful conversation. I guess before we close things out, is there anything else that you'd like to share, or like, I know, a quick pitch for Bold, maybe?
No, I mean, check us out,
Yeah.
boldmetrics.com. Reach out, Jeff at boldmetrics if you want to chat. But yeah, it was exciting to be on the other side of the podcast. I've interviewed a lot of people as the podcast host for our podcast. So thanks for letting me be on the other side of the table.
Of course, hopefully I met your expectations.
Yeah, it was all good.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Take care. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
All right.